The first time I noticed it, I almost convinced myself I was imagining things. My wife, Emma, was standing in the kitchen with her phone to her ear. I just walked in from the garage, dust on my hands, tired from organizing boxes I'd been putting off for months. I wasn't trying to listen, but the way she said his name froze me in place. Yeah, of course, Daniel. Her tone was softer. Not romantic, not obviously, but different, like carefully chosen warmth. A tone not used for coworkers or neighbors or even friends. A tone I hadn't heard in a long time, not even when she spoke to me. She smiled, just slightly, and tucked her hair behind her ear, nodding at whatever he said. I hadn't heard that tone since we were first dating, when everything was new and shiny. I stepped further inside, setting my keys on the counter louder than necessary. She turned, startled, like she'd forgotten I lived here. "Oh, hey," she said, covering the phone's mic for a second. "Just work stuff." Work stuff. The phrase every spouse learns to fear. She ended the call quickly. "Sorry, that was Daniel from the design team. We're working on that new client presentation." I nodded, pretending nothing felt strange. "Oh, how's it going?" She shrugged casually. "It's fine. We're just behind schedule." I didn't push. I just kissed her on the cheek and went upstairs to shower. From the bathroom I heard her phone buzz again. And even though the running water swallowed most sound, somehow, I still heard her laugh. A quiet, delicate laugh. The one she used to save for me. That night she stayed up late working at the dining table. Laptop open, headphones in, head bowed as she typed furiously. When I came down to say goodnight, she barely looked up. "Almost done," she murmured. "You should sleep." I hesitated, then kissed her head. "Don't stay up too late." "Mom." I climbed the stairs slowly. Something crawled beneath my ribs, an unfamiliar mix of confusion and unease. I told myself she was just stressed. Work pressure. Tight deadlines. Nothing more. But her voice saying Daniel replayed in my head. The next morning she left early, before I woke. Not unusual, but she usually left a note. This time only a text. "Early meeting. Breakfast on the counter. Love you." I smiled at the message, grateful, but something was off. The words were right, but they felt distant. Over the next week their name, Daniel, kept popping up. At dinner she mentioned him casually. "He's just really organized. Makes things easier." Another night. "He's super funny. Keeps the team sane." Harmless statements, but the way she said his name, that subtle tone, kept poking at me. Like she was polishing something carefully, more than it needed. One morning she was making coffee when her phone buzzed. She glanced at it, then grabbed it too quickly, stepping away as she answered. She lowered her voice, but I caught enough. "Oh hey Daniel, yeah. Last night was great." I blinked. Last night? She'd been working downstairs, alone. Or so I thought. She paused, realizing what she'd said. No, I mean the progress we made on the slides." "Sorry." Her correction was too fast. Too precise. Then came the laugh, soft, shy, intimate. The kind you give when someone says something just barely personal. When she noticed I was watching, she straightened and turned her back to me, wrapping her arm around herself like she needed a shield. I busied myself making toast, pretending not to notice. Inside, thoughts started spinning. Nothing concrete. Just small fractures forming in what used to feel unbreakable. The call ended. She slipped her phone into her bag and walked past me to grab her keys. "You okay?" I asked. She stopped. For a split second, her expression changed, like she was deciding whether to tell me something. Then she smiled. "Of course. Just a stressful week." She kissed my cheek and rushed out. That afternoon, I drove to her office to surprise her with lunch, something I'd done dozens of times before. She loved when I popped by. It was our thing. But when I arrived, she wasn't there. Her coworker Megan raised her eyebrows. "Oh, she took lunch early today. Said she had other plans?" Other plans? Emma always ate at her desk. I forced a smile. "No worries. I'll catch her later." I sat in my car for a few minutes, lunch untouched beside me. My mind insisted I was reading too much into nothing. Her voice changed when she said his name. They texted late. She wasn't at work when she said she was. Coincidence. Had to be. On her way home she texted. "Crazy day, exhausted. Let's order in?" I replied. "Sure. All good." We ate quietly. She talked about spreadsheets and boring meetings. I nodded when she needed nods. Laughed when she laughed. Pretended everything was normal. But sitting across from her, I felt something slip further away. That night, I lay awake watching the ceiling glow with passing streetlights. She slept beside me, breathing softly. I turned toward her, studying her face in the dim light. She still looked like the woman I loved. But something behind her closed eyelids felt just out of reach. I finally drifted asleep. The next morning I woke to find her already dressed, coat on, keys in hand. "You're up early," I said. She smiled nervously. "Big meeting. I want to be prepared." She kissed me quickly. "Love you." Then she hurried out. I stood staring at the door. I wasn't angry. Just wandering inside my own chest, lost in unfamiliar rooms. I made coffee and sat at the kitchen table, scrolling through emails. Then her phone buzzed on the counter. She'd forgotten it. Normally I wouldn't think twice. But seeing her screen light up, displaying a notification that read, "You free tonight? Daniel." My hand froze above the table. Free tonight. Why would he need to know that? My stomach dropped. I didn't touch her phone. Didn't unlock it. Just stared at those 3 words. "You free tonight?" Like an invitation. Like he already knew the answer. That evening when she got home I said nothing. She didn't notice her phone had moved slightly. Didn't notice the change in my breathing. She went upstairs to shower. I sat there in the quiet kitchen, that message burning through my thoughts. Her voice changed when she said his name. Now I knew why I'd felt it. Because the truth had already begun. Long before I noticed. She came downstairs after her shower, hair wrapped in a towel, humming softly. She moved through the kitchen like nothing had shifted between us. Maybe nothing had. Or maybe everything had. I poured us each a glass of water, trying to keep my hands steady. "You okay?" she asked, noticing I hadn't looked at her much. "Yeah," I lied. "Just tired." She nodded, accepting the answer too easily. We sat on the couch, a show playing on TV that neither of us really watched. Every now and then, she'd smile at her phone before setting it face down on the cushion beside her. I forced my eyes to stay on the screen, even though my mind was somewhere else entirely. When she got up to grab a blanket, her phone lit up again. Another message. Same name. Daniel. "Still thinking about what you said." I felt heat rise in my chest. Anger, confusion, fear, blending into something I couldn't name. I didn't touch the phone. I couldn't. But I stared at that message like it was a wound. "Thinking about what you said." "About what?" She returned, curled up beside me, pulling the blanket over both our legs. She leaned against my shoulder. A gesture that once felt comforting now felt unfamiliar. "Long day?" I asked quietly. She exhaled. "Yeah. Really long." I waited. Waited for her to say something more, anything more. But she didn't. Later that night, after she fell asleep, I lay awake again. The house was silent except for the occasional creak of settling wood. Her breathing was steady, peaceful. She looked innocent, like nothing could be wrong. I rolled onto my back, staring at the dark ceiling. A thought whispered through my mind. Maybe it's nothing. Maybe I'm being dramatic. Maybe she's just excited about work. But then, why did her voice change when she said his name? The next day she left early again. No kiss. Just a rushed "see you tonight." I stood at the window and watched her car pull away, feeling like I wasn't fully in my own life anymore. That afternoon I finally told someone. My brother Mark came by to help me move some furniture. We'd barely started when he said, "You look rough. Everything good?" I hesitated, then nodded, then shook my head. "It's something weird with Emma," I said. He paused, leaning against the wall. "Weird how?" I explained. Her voice. Her late nights. The messages. The lunch that wasn't lunch. Mark listened carefully, not interrupting. When I finished, he rubbed his chin. "Have you talked to her about it?" "No. I don't want to look paranoid." Paranoid means imagining things. "You've got reasons." I sighed, running a hand through my hair. "I don't want to accuse her. What if it's innocent?" He shrugged. "Then she'll tell you. And if it isn't, you'll know you listened to your gut." It sounded simple when he said it, but the idea of confronting her made my chest feel tight. That night when she came home I tried. I really did. She walked in smiling, a little too brightly. "Hey, how was your day?" "Fine," I said. "Can we talk?" "Sure," she replied, though her voice tightened slightly. We sat at the table. I looked at her hands, how she kept them folded too neatly. "I know you've been working a lot," I began. "And that's fine. But I'm feeling a little out of the loop. You've been talking to Daniel a lot and—" She cut in immediately. "It's work. That's all." "I know," I said, staying calm. "But it feels like it's more than work. You two talk late. You leave early. You weren't at the office yesterday when I stopped by." Her eyes widened. "You came by?" "Yeah. To bring you lunch. She looked down. Oh, yeah, I forgot I stepped out. To do what? Just errands? Her answer was too quick, too thin. I waited, hoping she'd fill the silence with truth, but she didn't. It's work, she repeated softly. You're overthinking. I swallowed. Then why did your voice sound different when you said his name? Her eyes flashed, hurt, anger, fear, I couldn't tell. That's not fair, she whispered. You're twisting things. I'm asking, I said. Not accusing. She pulled her hands away from mine. I'm tired. I don't want to fight. She stood up and walked upstairs without another word. I sat there, alone at the table, wondering how a simple conversation could make the air feel so heavy. The next few days were quiet. Too quiet. We talked only about surface things, groceries, chores, small errands. Never about him. Never about us. One evening we hosted friends for dinner. A couple we'd known for years, Ben and Lisa. The night was full of laughter and stories. For a moment things felt normal. Until Ben asked casually, "So, how's that new guy at your work? The one helping with the client stuff. What's his name?" "Daniel," she said. And there it was again. That tone. Soft. Bright. Too warm. Lisa didn't notice. But Ben did. He shot me a quick look, subtle but questioning. I forced a smile. "He seems helpful." "Oh, he is," Emma said. "He's been great." The conversation continued. But I barely heard any of it. Later that night, after our friends left, I washed dishes while she wiped the counters. Silence stretched between us. Finally I spoke. "You lit up when his name came up." She froze. "What?" "At dinner. Your face. Your voice. It changed." She shook her head. "You're imagining things." "Am I?" I asked quietly. She didn't answer. She finished wiping, tossed the towel aside, and went upstairs. I stood alone in the kitchen, the tap dripping rhythmically into the sink. Something inside me felt like it was fraying. The next morning, I woke up to the faint sound of Emma laughing downstairs. A light, startled laugh, like she was trying to keep her voice low. I glanced at the clock. 6:20 a.m. I walked down quietly. She stood near the window, phone pressed to her ear, whispering. Her back was to me. I leaned against the doorway. She said his name. Soft, warm, different. She didn't know I was there. I didn't make a sound. I just stood there, watching her shoulders rise and fall with every careful breath she took. Her voice stayed low, words faint, almost hidden. "No, it's fine. I just wanted to hear your opinion before the meeting." "Yeah. I liked what you said yesterday." My stomach tightened. She paused, listening. Then she laughed, quiet, nervous, the kind of laugh you make when someone says something flattering. I stepped forward just enough to let the floor creak. She whipped around instantly, eyes wide. "Oh, hey," she managed, trying to sound casual. "You're up early." I nodded. "Couldn't sleep." She forced a smile. "Just work call." "Daniel?" Her throat bobbed. "Yeah." I didn't say anything else. She ended the call fast, almost too fast, then slipped her phone face down onto the counter. "Coffee?" she asked. "Sure." She moved around the kitchen, her motions stiff and nervous. Every clink of ceramic felt loud, too sharp. I sat at the table, watching her pour the coffee with shaky hands. She avoided my eyes. "What was so urgent this morning?" I asked quietly. She shrugged. "Just needed his input on something." "At 6 in the morning?" It's the only time that worked. Her answers felt like half-built walls, thin, quick, unsteady. I nodded slowly, letting it go for the moment. She relaxed minutely, as if relieved I wasn't pushing, yet. We drank in silence. She left early again. I sat alone, coffee growing cold, wondering when simple conversations became rehearsed performances. That day I couldn't focus on anything. My mind kept replaying her voice, soft, careful, every time she said his name. I felt like I was losing something without even knowing when it started slipping away. By afternoon I made a decision. I drove to her office again. This time she was there. Or at least, her car was. I waited until a group of employees walked out, then approached one of them, another designer from her team, someone I'd met before. A friendly guy named Owen. "Hey," I said casually. "Is Emma around?" He nodded. "Yeah, she's working in the back room with, Daniel." He said it casually with no hidden meaning. But the words still hit. "In the back room?" I repeated. "Yeah. They've been on that presentation nonstop. Practically glued together lately." He chuckled, unaware of how those words landed. I forced a laugh. "Good to know. Thanks." I walked back to my car and sat inside, hands gripping the steering wheel. The building's windows reflected the sky, cold and distant. I didn't go in. Not yet. I texted her. Want to grab dinner tonight? Minutes later she replied. Tonight won't work. Late meeting. I stared at the office door. She wasn't lying about being there, but still I felt the weight of something building behind the facts. That evening she came home around 9. She looked tired, hair messy, makeup faded. She dropped her bag and sank into the couch. You okay? I asked. Long day, she said, not looking at me. I just want to shower. Before she walked away I said, I stopped by your office today. Her body went still. Oh, she said, turning slowly. Why? Just thought we could grab lunch. She nodded once. That would have been nice. You were in the back room with him. Her lips parted slightly. Yeah. We needed space to focus. I waited, hoping she'd add more. Offer reassurance. Anything. She didn't. Instead she just said, I'm exhausted. We can talk later. And then she disappeared into the bathroom. The shower ran for a long time. I sat on the couch, staring at nothing. Somewhere beneath the worry, anger flickered. Not loud, just quiet disappointment. When she came back I tried again. I miss you. She froze. Towel in her hands. Her expression softened just a little. I know. I've just been overwhelmed. Then let me be part of that, I said. She looked away. I don't want to put that on you. I stepped closer. We're a team. If you're struggling, I want to know. If something is wrong, I want to help fix it. She swallowed hard. It's not like that. It's just work. I held her gaze. Then why does it feel like you're slipping away from me? She looked startled, not angry, just surprised. Like she didn't expect me to notice. She took a breath. I'm sorry, she whispered. I'll try to be more present. I nodded slowly. But her eyes didn't match her words. That night she fell asleep quickly, exhaustion pulling her under. I lay beside her, staring at the ceiling, feeling distance stretch between us. For the first time I wondered if love could fade quietly. Not in an explosion. Not in a fight. But in silence. 2 days passed. Things felt calmer. She came home earlier. We cooked dinner together. She put her phone on the counter instead of carrying it everywhere. Felt like trying. Like effort. But then, Saturday arrived. We were supposed to have a quiet morning. Coffee and pancakes. Our thing. I woke up to find her sitting at the kitchen table already, phone in hand. She didn't hear me enter. Her voice was soft again. I like that too, she whispered. Pause. A faint laugh. Yeah. Maybe. I took another step. She jumped, startled. Oh hey. You're up early. I looked at her phone. Daniel? She pressed the screen dark. Yeah. He just wanted to go over a few details. On Saturday? He's dedicated, she said quickly. He wants this project perfect. Does he call everyone on weekends? Her mouth opened, then closed. I don't know, she said finally. Maybe. It's not weird. We're just talking, I finished. Like always. She frowned. Why are you being like this? I'm trying to understand, I said calmly. Because every time you say his name, your voice changes. Like he's someone special. Her face tightened. That's not true. It is, I said quietly. And you know it. She looked away, breathing uneven. Nothing's happening, she said. But you're making me feel like it is. I swallowed frustration. I'm not accusing you. I'm asking you to see what I see. To hear what I hear. She shook her head and stood. I need air. She grabbed her jacket and walked out the back door. I stared at the empty space she'd left behind, feeling like the house had suddenly become too big. She returned 20 minutes later, calmer. She set her jacket down and sat across from me. I don't like him, she said. Not the way you think. Relief pulsed, until she continued. But I like who I am when I talk to him. I feel interesting again. Not just tired. Not just routine. Her honesty hit harder than any lie could. I felt something inside me quietly break. I didn't yell. Didn't accuse. I just asked one question. Do you still feel that with me? Her silence was the answer. Silence stretched between us, long enough that I heard the hum of the refrigerator over everything else. Her eyes glistened, not with guilt, but uncertainty. I don't know, she whispered. I nodded slowly, even though the answer felt like a punch. Honesty hurts, but silence kills. At least now I knew what we were facing. I sat back in my chair. So, Where does that leave us? She rubbed her palms together nervously. I don't want to lose you, she said. But I don't know how to fix this yet. My chest tightened. We can fix it together. But only if you want to. She stared down at the table, tracing the wood grain with her finger. I want to try, she said softly. But I need space to figure out why I feel distant. Space. A word that sounds harmless until it's pointed at your heart. Okay, I said quietly. Space. But we talk. No disappearing. She nodded. Agreed. We decided to take a day, just one, and meet again that night to talk more. She said she'd go to a cafe, journal, think. I stayed home, pacing the living room, checking the clock every 10 minutes. I tried to distract myself, cleaning, music, old movies, but nothing worked. Every thought circled back to her, his name, her voice. Around evening, I ordered takeout for the two of us, hoping maybe food could break the ice. She came home just after 7. I studied her face when she walked in, tired, pale, guarded. We ate quietly. Between bites, she said, I thought a lot today. My fork paused midair. And? She exhaled slowly. I think I've been lonely, even while sitting right next to you. The words stung. Not because they were cruel, because they were true. Why didn't you tell me? I asked. She shrugged helplessly. I didn't know how. Everything felt heavy. And then talking to him felt light. Easy. I nodded. Because he doesn't have history with you. He doesn't know the hard parts. He only sees what you show. She looked surprised, like I'd said something she'd only been thinking privately. He made me feel seen, she admitted. And I'm not saying that's good. Just real. I leaned forward. I see you too, Emma. Maybe I haven't said it enough. Maybe I got comfortable. But I'm still here. Her eyes softened and she reached across the table, fingers brushing mine. I know, she whispered. And that matters. It wasn't a resolution, but it was a beginning. We talked for hours, about how routine had turned into distance, how comfort grew into silence. We didn't blame each other, we just explored. Around midnight, she leaned her head on my shoulder. Thank you, she murmured. For what? I asked. For listening, even when you're hurting. I wrapped my arm around her gently. We'll figure this out. And for the first time in weeks, we fell asleep holding each other. The next week was careful but hopeful. She put her phone away more. We cooked together, laughed more, made intentional time instead of accidental time. One night, she showed me a text before sending it. Hey, can we keep communication strictly work-related? I'm focusing on my marriage. She typed it to him. I watched her hit send. Her hands trembled slightly, but she smiled afterward. He understands, she said. But her eyes betrayed a different truth. She wasn't sure. Still, she tried. That effort meant everything. But change isn't a switch, it's a slope. 2 days later, she received a message from him late at night. I saw her hesitate before opening it. Her expression changed, small but noticeable. I didn't ask. I just watched her lock her phone and place it face down. Everything okay? I asked. She nodded too quickly. Yeah. Just work. The old phrase returned, sharp as a memory. I didn't push. Instead, I suggested, let's go for a walk. She blinked, surprised, then smiled. Yeah, I'd like that. We walked the quiet streets, hands brushing, talking about anything except him. The cool air felt cleansing. Back home, we watched a movie, shared a blanket, dozed off. Small steps. Tiny repairs. But cracks don't vanish overnight. Friday arrived. She left early for a meeting. Big day, she said. I tried to be supportive. Told her she'd do great. She kissed me before leaving. A real kiss. For the first time in a while, I felt hope. I made coffee, cleaned up, and sat at the counter scrolling through emails. Her tablet sat nearby, screen still on from when she rushed out. I didn't mean to look, but a notification appeared. Daniel. I don't believe that text was the whole truth. My breath caught. Before I could process it, another message followed. Do you really want distance? Or are you just afraid to say what you feel? My pulse hammered. Whatever space she took hadn't been clean. He hadn't backed off. I stared at the screen, torn. I didn't want to invade her privacy. But the messages were right there, unmistakable. I didn't open anything else. I didn't dig. I just sat there numb. When she came home that evening, tired and smiling faintly, I asked, how was your day? Good, she said. Really good. I think the meeting went well. Did you talk to him? She tensed. A little. About work. Only work. She hesitated. Yes, she said, voice too flat. I nodded slowly. She put her bag down, changed clothes, and joined me on the couch. She rested her head on my shoulder. But my mind replayed those messages over and over. He didn't believe her. He was pushing. And she hadn't told me. I held her close anyway. Because love is often gentler than anger. The next morning, I woke to find her already in the kitchen, pouring coffee. She looked exhausted, eyes dull, movements slow. You okay? I asked. Yeah, she said. But her voice sounded thin. Just didn't sleep well. I took a seat at the table. She joined me, hands wrapped around her mug like she needed its warmth to stay steady. I need to tell you something, she whispered. I waited. She took a shaky breath. He asked me to meet him yesterday. After the presentation. My stomach dropped. And? I asked. She looked at me with eyes full of fear and honesty. I didn't go, she said. I started driving there, but I stopped. I just sat in my car for 20 minutes and then came home. Emotion surged, relief mixing with dread. Why didn't you go? I whispered. She swallowed. Because I didn't want to ruin us. I didn't want to cross that line. I breathed out slowly, feeling the ache and hope intertwine. But you wanted to, I said, not accusing, just acknowledging. Her eyes filled with tears. Yes, she admitted. Part of me did. My heart cracked. But it also understood. Because whether or not she went wasn't the core issue. It was that she wanted something outside our marriage. Something she thought I couldn't give. She reached for my hand. I'm trying, she whispered. I'm really trying. I held her hand tightly. I know. And somehow that was enough, for now. But deep down, I knew we were standing on fragile ground. Still together. Still holding on. But learning that love doesn't disappear all at once. It fades in whispers. And can only return if both people call it back. In the days that followed, something shifted quietly between us. Nothing dramatic. No shouting, no slammed doors. Just a softness. A deliberate calmness. Like we were both walking carefully on the same cracked bridge, hoping it wouldn't crumble beneath us. She cooked more. I listened more. We laughed sometimes, small, careful laughs, but real enough to remind me of who we'd once been. One evening, while we sat on the couch scrolling through movie options, she asked, "Do you think we can be okay?" I paused, searching for an answer that felt honest. I said slowly, being okay isn't a destination. It's a choice. One we have to make again and again. She nodded, leaning gently against me. I want to choose us, she whispered. So did I. But choosing isn't the same as forgetting. Sunday came with warm weather and open windows. We cleaned the house together, music playing, sunlight pouring across the hardwood floors. It felt normal. Easy. Like the simple days before everything grew complicated. At one point, she was dusting shelves in the living room when her phone buzzed. She froze. Not dramatically, just enough that I noticed. She let it ring. A small, quiet victory. When it stopped, she sighed and kept cleaning. Later, when we were taking a break, she admitted. He texted again. What did he say? I asked. She hesitated. That he misses talking to me. My chest tightened. What did you respond? I didn't, she said. Then added quickly. I won't. I nodded, appreciating her openness. She looked at me carefully. I know I messed up, she said. Not with some act, but with my heart. I let attention make me forget what I have at home. I stared at her, hearing the sincerity in her voice. I don't need perfect, I said. I just need truth. She nodded, eyes glossy. That's what I'll give. We began talking more, real conversations, not just surface-level checklists about groceries and schedules. She told me she'd felt stuck for months, like life had become a routine she didn't recognize. She said she felt boring, dull, unseen. Not because I didn't love her, but because neither of us had been tending to the small things. I told her I'd felt helpless, watching us drift and not knowing how to pull us back. It wasn't dramatic, just honest. And slowly, that honesty built a new language between us. A week later, we decided to take a small trip. Nothing big, just a 2-hour drive to a quiet town near a lake. Somewhere with old bookstores, small cafes, and a boardwalk that reminded us of college. We walked for hours, sharing stories we hadn't shared in years. Things not about work or obligation, just life. What scared us, what excited us, what we missed. She stopped by a street musician playing guitar and closed her eyes, swaying to the slow rhythm. I watched her, really watched her, and realized how long it had been since we'd been in the same moment together. At dinner, she reached across the table and took my hand. You're still the person I choose, she said. I squeezed her hand gently. You're still the person I show up for. Her eyes glowed, soft and grateful. That night we returned to our room, sat on the balcony and watched lights shimmer across the lake. The air felt clean, quiet. She rested her head on my shoulder. Thank you, she murmured. For what? For not giving up when I drifted. I kissed her hair. We drift together. Or not at all. She smiled a tired, happy smile. And for the first time in a long time I felt peace. When we got home the quiet routines felt new again, like someone had dusted the edges. She made coffee while I read. We walked in the evenings just because. We didn't fix everything overnight, but we learned to move closer instead of away. One night she sat next to me on the couch and took a deep breath. I blocked his number. I looked at her. You did. She nodded. He doesn't get to take space in my life anymore. I didn't cheer. Didn't celebrate. I just took her hand and held it. That means more than you know. It means everything to me, she said. She opened the photo gallery on her phone and showed me something. A message she drafted days ago but never sent. Read. I'm choosing my marriage. Please respect that. She never sent it. Because she didn't need to. Blocking him was final. I looked at her face, calm, steady, and felt something inside settle. I'm proud of you, I whispered. She laughed softly, almost embarrassed. For what? For fighting for us. Still, healing wasn't linear. Some nights she'd grow quiet. Some days I'd feel a pang of doubt. But we talked through it. Not to relive old shadows, but to understand the light we were walking toward. She told me the hardest part wasn't ending the connection. It was forgiving herself for wanting it. I told her forgiveness wasn't a finish line. It was a daily act. One evening after dinner she sat close to me on the couch, tracing circles on my arm. You ever wonder why love gets quiet? She asked. I thought for a moment. Because we forget it needs attention, I said. Just like anything alive. She nodded slowly. Then let's water it, she whispered. So we did. Every day. In small, quiet ways. One afternoon, I came home from work to find her sitting at the kitchen table with a notebook. Pages filled with scribbles, messy thoughts. What's this? I asked, sitting beside her. She pushed the notebook toward me. I've been writing everything. How I drifted. How I found my way back. What I want to build now. I skimmed her words. Raw. Honest. Full of effort and growth. At the bottom of one page she'd written. Love didn't leave. I just stopped knocking. I closed the notebook slowly, feeling a lump in my throat. She reached for my hand. I'm knocking now, she said. I lifted her hand to my lips. And I'm opening the door. She smiled, quiet but full. And just like that, the bridge beneath us felt a little stronger. We weren't perfect, but we were trying. Together. And sometimes that's enough to begin again. Months passed and our lives slowly found a new rhythm. Steady, intentional, softer around the edges. We were still learning each other again, but now we showed up with open hands instead of closed fists. Some mornings we'd drink coffee on the porch before work, just sitting together in quiet comfort. Other nights we'd cook side by side, music playing in the background, laughing about how neither of us could chop onions without tearing up. Little things. But little things build big things. One evening we invited a few friends over for dinner. Nothing fancy, just pasta, garlic bread, and too much dessert. As everyone talked and joked, I noticed Emma's hand briefly slide over mine beneath the table. A simple touch, grounding and real. Later that night, after the dishes were done and the house was quiet again, she leaned against the kitchen counter and said softly, I feel present. I smiled. Me too. She exhaled, relieved, like she'd been waiting to believe she could say those words. I used to think love meant never drifting, she admitted. But maybe drifting just reminds us to steer. I nodded. We kept steering. She reached for my hand. And when you were scared, you didn't run. You reached out. I squeezed her fingers gently. So did you. A few days later she got an email, his name in the subject line. I saw her stare at it for a long moment. She didn't open it. Instead she moved it straight to trash, then emptied the folder completely. I don't owe him a reply, she said simply. There was no dramatic speech, no shaky voice, just calm clarity. The kind that only comes when someone knows exactly where they stand. That night as we walked through the neighborhood, she rested her head on my shoulder and said, You know what scared me the most? Not losing you, but losing the version of myself I liked. I thought for a moment. I like that version too, I said. But I know she's still here. She just needed room to breathe. She looked up at me, eyes warm. And I'm learning that I can breathe here, with you. We kept walking, passing quiet houses and dim streetlights. The world felt smaller in a comforting way, like nothing outside that moment needed our attention. Back home we curled up on the couch. She tucked her legs beneath her and leaned into me. The air was quiet, gentle, full. I used to think love was about grand gestures, she whispered. But now I know it's about seeing each other. Really seeing. I brushed her hair behind her ear. I see you. She smiled, soft, steady. And I see you. Later, just before bed, she paused in the hallway and said, when I said his name, something sounded different because I didn't know who I was anymore. But when I say yours, I hear home. I stepped closer and wrapped my arms around her. We found our way back. She nodded against my chest. And I'm not going anywhere. We turned off the lights, climbed into bed and lay facing each other, quiet, grateful. Her hand found mine beneath the covers. No drama. No fear. Just two people choosing. Again and again. And sometimes, that's the whole story.